Welcome, dear friends, to our nightly rendezvous with magic and dreams. As the day's last whispers fade and the stars begin their twinkling dance, we find ourselves on the brink of a new adventure. Snuggle down into your bed, feel the comfort of your favorite sleeping spot, and let a sense of peace wash over you like a gentle wave. Our story for tonight, Goodnight Zoo, is a treasure chest of imagination, ready to be opened and explored. So with quiet minds and open hearts, let's begin our journey into the realm of once upon a time. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, little Max stood at the zoo's main gate, his blue eyes wide with excitement. The day visitors were leaving, streaming past him and his mother, but Max wasn't going anywhere. Tonight was special. He was going to see how the zoo said goodnight. Max's mother was a zookeeper, and she had promised him this treat for his 7th birthday. He had spent countless days at the zoo, but never after closing time. The thought of seeing the animals getting ready for bed filled him with wonder. "Mom," Max said, tugging on his mother's sleeve, "do the animals in the zoo go to sleep like we do?" His mother smiled down at him, her eyes twinkling. "Well, Max, some do and some don't. The zoo has its own special way of saying goodnight. Would you like to learn about it?" Max nodded eagerly, practically bouncing with anticipation. "All right then," his mother said, taking his hand. "Let's watch the zoo say goodnight together." As they walked through the now quiet paths, the last rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, casting long shadows across the ground. Max's mother began to speak in a soft, soothing voice. "You see, Max, as day turns to night, the zoo begins to whisper its goodnights to all the animals that live here. It starts with the smallest creatures first." Max leaned forward, straining his ears to hear the zoo's whispers. "In the insect house," his mother continued, leading him towards a low, dark building. "The tiny creatures are beginning to settle down for the night. The butterflies, who've been fluttering around all day, find cozy spots to rest. They close their colorful wings, looking like delicate leaves on the plants in their enclosure." Through the glass, Max could see the butterflies perched motionless on leaves and branches. It was hard to believe these still forms were the same creatures he had seen dancing through the air earlier that day. "Next door," his mother said as they moved on, "the reptile house is getting ready for bed too. But remember, many reptiles are nocturnal, which means they're active at night." They peered into the dimly lit interior. In one enclosure, a large iguana was settling down on a warm rock, its eyes slowly closing. But in the next, a gecko was becoming more active, its large eyes alert as it began to explore its habitat. "The snakes," his mother added in a hushed tone, "are starting to wake up. They'll spend the night hunting for food that the zookeepers have left for them." A shiver of excitement ran down Max's spine as he watched a boa constrictor slowly uncoil itself. As they stepped back outside, the sky had darkened to a deep indigo. Stars were beginning to twinkle overhead, and the air was filled with new sounds: the chirping of crickets, the occasional hoot of an owl, and the distant calls of animals Max couldn't identify. "But now," his mother continued, her voice low and rhythmic, "as the night grows deeper, the zoo says goodnight to the larger animals. Let's go see the big cats." They walked quietly to the lion enclosure. The mighty animals, who had been lazing in the sun all day, were now more alert. A large male lion was pacing along the edge of his territory, occasionally letting out a low, rumbling roar. "The lions," his mother explained, "are crepuscular, which means they're most active during twilight hours. They might hunt during the night, but in the zoo, they'll settle down to sleep once they've had their evening meal." As if on cue, a zookeeper appeared with a cart full of meat. The lions perked up immediately, their powerful bodies tensing with anticipation. "Let's leave them to their dinner," his mother said with a smile. "How about we check on the primates?" They made their way to the monkey enclosures. Most of the smaller monkeys were already curled up in little furry balls, their long tails wrapped around them like blankets. But in the chimpanzee habitat, there was still some activity. "Chimpanzees," his mother explained, "make nests to sleep in, just like they would in the wild." "Watch," Max observed in fascination as the chimps gathered leaves and branches, arranging them carefully in the crooks of trees or on raised platforms. It reminded him of how he arranged his pillows and blankets before bed. "What about the elephants, Mom?" Max asked, remembering the gentle giants he loved to watch during the day. His mother smiled. "The elephants are very interesting, Max. In the wild, they sleep for only a few hours each night, usually while standing up. But sometimes they do lie down to sleep, especially if they feel safe." They walked to the elephant enclosure, where the massive animals were moving slowly around their spacious habitat. One of the elephants was using its trunk to splash water on its back, enjoying a nighttime bath. "The zookeepers will give them their evening meal soon," his mother said. "After that, they'll probably doze off and on throughout the night." As they continued their tour, Max was amazed at how different the zoo felt at night. The paths that were usually bustling with visitors were now quiet and peaceful. The air was cooler, and strange shadows danced on the ground, cast by security lights and the rising moon. They passed by the giraffe enclosure, where the tall animals were gracefully bending their long necks to reach evening snacks left by the zookeepers. "Giraffes," his mother explained, "sleep for only short periods, and they can do it standing up. They have to be alert for predators in the wild." Max yawned, feeling a bit envious of the giraffe's ability to sleep while standing. His own eyelids were starting to feel heavy, but he fought to keep them open, not wanting to miss a moment of this nighttime adventure. They visited the penguin habitat next. Unlike the warm climate animals who were settling down for the night, the penguins were as active as ever in their climate-controlled environment. "Penguins in the wild," his mother said, "often hunt at night. Here in the zoo, they're active at various times, but they do have rest periods. See how some of them are huddled together on those rocks? They're having a little nap." Max giggled at the sight of the penguins snuggled up together, looking like little gentlemen in tuxedos having a slumber party. As they walked, his mother continued her soothing narration. "The zoo has its own special nightlife," she said softly. "While some animals rest, others come alive, creating a beautiful balance in our little wildlife world." Max nodded sleepily, his imagination filled with images of prowling big cats, nest-building chimps, and dozing elephants. "But what about the birds, Mom?" he asked through a yawn. "How does the zoo say goodnight to them?" His mother smiled, clearly impressed by Max's thoughtful question. "Ah, the birds. They have their own special bedtime routine. Most birds in the zoo, like in the wild, settle down to sleep when it gets dark. They fluff up their feathers to stay warm, and often tuck their heads under their wings." She led Max to the aviary, a large enclosed space filled with trees and plants. Inside, they could see birds of all sizes and colors, finding cozy spots to roost for the night. Some were already asleep, little puffballs of feathers perched on branches. "But remember," his mother added, "not all birds sleep at night. Owls, for example, are just waking up now." As if to confirm her words, a soft hoo-hoo echoed through the zoo. Max closed his eyes, trying to imagine being a bird settling down in a nest high up in a tree. In his mind, he could almost feel soft feathers surrounding him like a warm, cozy blanket. As the night grew deeper, Max and his mother sat on a bench near the center of the zoo. The air was filled with a symphony of night sounds. the distant roar of a lion, the chirping of crickets, the occasional splash from the penguin pool, and the soft rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. "Mom," Max said after a while, his voice thick with sleepiness, "I think I can hear the zoo saying good night." His mother smiled and pulled him close. "What does it sound like, sweetheart?" Max was quiet for a moment, concentrating hard. "It sounds like a big, gentle lullaby, like when you sing to me before bed. It's soft and peaceful, and makes all the animals feel safe and happy." His mother's eyes glistened with emotion. "That's beautiful, Max. I think you've understood the zoo's goodnight perfectly." As they sat there, embraced by the night and the soothing presence of the sleeping zoo, Max's mother began to hum softly. It was a tune that seemed to blend seamlessly with the nighttime sounds around them, creating a perfect animal lullaby. Max's eyelids grew heavier, and he leaned against his mother, feeling safe and content. As he drifted off to sleep, he imagined all the zoo animals settling down for the night. The lions curled up in their dens, the monkeys in their leafy nests, the elephants dozing while standing in their enclosure, and the nocturnal animals beginning their nightly routines. In his dreams, Max soared over the zoo like a bird, visiting each habitat. He swam with playful penguins, climbed trees with agile monkeys, and ran alongside graceful cheetahs. He helped tuck in baby animals and sang lullabies with his mother to all the creatures big and small. The zoo cradled him in its wild embrace, whispering secrets of faraway lands and the amazing diversity of animal life. As the night wore on, a gentle mist began to rise from the nearby pond, wrapping around the lower parts of trees and shrubs. It crept along the paths, softening the outlines of benches and signposts, turning the zoo into a dreamlike landscape. High in the trees, nocturnal birds called softly to each other. In the small mammals' enclosure, a family of raccoons emerged, their masked faces curious as they explored their habitat, searching for the nighttime treats left by their caretakers. On the bench, Max slept peacefully in his mother's arms, his dreams filled with the wonders of the zoo. His mother gazed at the starry sky above, marveling at the zoo's ability to inspire such wonder and imagination in her little boy. As the first light of dawn began to tinge the eastern sky, Max stirred in his sleep. His mother looked down at him, smiling at the peaceful expression on his face. "Max," she whispered gently, "it's time to wake up. The zoo is saying good morning." Max's eyes fluttered open, and he looked around in momentary confusion, before remembering where he was. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, and then gasped in delight at the sight before him. The sun was just peeking over the horizon, its rays catching the morning mist and turning it into a golden haze. The zoo, which had been relatively quiet through the night, now seemed to come alive with renewed energy. Birds began their morning chorus, their songs echoing through the air. In nearby enclosures, animals were starting to stir, greeting the new day in their own unique ways. "Look, Mom," Max exclaimed, pointing at a nearby tree where a family of monkeys was becoming active. "The zoo's waking up." His mother nodded, smiling. "That's right, sweetheart. Just like us, the zoo has its own way of greeting the new day." As they watched, the golden light of the rising sun spread across the zoo, chasing away the last shadows of night. At the elephant enclosure, the gentle giants were already awake, using their trunks to splash water on their backs in a morning bath. The lions were stretching languorously in the early sunlight, looking like oversized house cats. "Mom," Max said, his voice filled with awe, "can we say good morning to the zoo?" His mother smiled and nodded. "Of course we can. Why don't you go ahead?" Max stood up on the bench, took a deep breath, and called out, "Good morning, zoo! Thank you for letting me see you say goodnight. I hope all the animals had sweet dreams. As if in response, a peacock nearby unfurled its magnificent tail, the iridescent feathers catching the morning light in a dazzling display. Max giggled, imagining that the zoo was giving him a spectacular good morning in return. His mother stood up and took his hand. Come on, Max, we need to get ready for the day. The other zookeepers will be arriving soon, and we need to help prepare breakfast for all our animal friends. As they walked along the path towards the staff area, Max took one last look at the awakening zoo. Every habitat seemed to pulse with life and energy, full of promise for the new day ahead. Max smiled, feeling like he now shared a special secret with the zoo, the knowledge of how it said good night and good morning to all its wonderful animals. From that day on, whenever Max visited the zoo, whether during regular hours or on special nights with his mother, he always made sure to wish the animals a good night or a good morning. And as he grew older, he never forgot the magic of that night when he learned about the zoo's bedtime routine. It instilled in him a lifelong love and respect for animals and nature, a gift as precious and enduring as the zoo itself. And so, as we end our tale, we too bid goodnight to the zoo, to its roaring lions and trumpeting elephants, to its colorful birds and playful monkeys, to all its amazing creatures from every corner of the world. May it inspire us in our dreams and greet us with excitement in the morning, forever a source of wonder and discovery in our lives. Good night, Zoo. Until we meet again.